Hello and welcome to my video review for Transformers Titans Returns leader Powermaster Prime. So in his vehicle mode here, Prime is a pretty powerful and snazzy looking truck. He is a heavy retool of the, I think it was just Generations? No, sorry, it was Combiner Wars leader Ultra Magnus that came out last year, I believe it was. They remolded pretty much everything on the toy. It does share the transformation scheme and like a couple spare parts here and there, but for the most part everything on this toy is a unique molded part that is for this toy, so that's pretty cool. I think I actually might like this version of the mold more, which I did not expect. I rarely even buy retools, so I'm a little bit surprised there, but he's a little bit open in the front here. Oh well, I can deal with that, honestly. Everything else is pretty well closed up. This little part up here might annoy some people. I guess they could have put something there, but what are you gonna do? He comes with the same two guns as Magnus, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later, because I'm gonna steal an idea from another reviewer. Blasphemy. But he's definitely a very nice looking figure in his alt mode. I'm digging this. Big fan. So for a size comparison, here he is with Ultra Magnus. And sorry, my review space is not huge, so fitting both of these guys in is a little bit tricky. So you can see they definitely did a whole lot of remolding. Same general idea. The spirit of the figure carries through, but very unique molds. And here he is with some G2 Stunticons from Combiner Wars. Again, just to kind of get a relative scale idea here. Pardon my Neosporin. So, definitely, I mean, he's leader class, so he's pretty big. Cab's definitely a little smaller there, so I don't know if that kind of scaling works. But, you know, it's not that big of a deal. He looks good. So, Prime here comes with the same exact two weapons that Ultra Magnus came with. So we're basically just getting more copies of these exact same things. They are in a slightly different color, which is weird. They're like a slightly more brown. I don't think it's coming across on the camera at all, but it is very slight, and I wouldn't even necessarily notice it if I didn't put them right up next to each other. But this is more of a gray black, and this is more of a brown black, if that makes any sense to it. This one's got a little bit more of a brownish type of tinge to it. But again, I don't think if you have these out of like high light, I don't think you're going to notice that much. So I'm actually going to steal an idea that another reviewer had, and I have to apologize because I cannot remember for the life of me who actually said it. It was another YouTube reviewer. I've been watching Combiner Wars reviews now for a couple weeks, and I just can't remember who pointed this out, but thank you to whoever it was, and sorry I'm not giving you proper credit. They pointed out that these two guns right here actually kind of match up a little bit better and end up looking, I think, and they also thought, but I agree, a little nicer on the back there. And a little bit more uniform, so you got the two matching guns and the two matching guns. So I think I am going to give both of these to Prime, and then I'm going to give both of these over here to Sir Magnus, and then that way they will both have their own unique different guns. These ones will look a little bit nicer on here, and I'll probably be able to pop both of these onto the sides of the Magnus truck, although one's going to have to be upside down, so I'll figure that out. But frankly, I care more about these guns looking nice on the top than I care about the guns looking uniform on the side. I don't mind if one of those has to be upside down on Magnus, so I'm going to do that. Obviously, you're not required to do that, but that's what I'm going to do, so just thought I'd point that out for you. And again, thank you to whatever YouTube reviewer mentioned that, and sorry I'm not properly giving you credit for your idea. So, there's a cool bit of playability here. If you want to take one of the standalone Titan figures, or Titan Master figures, I suppose, he does have multiple peg points. He's got 2 here, a couple along here. He's got some down here. He's got other ones that are meant for base mode. Got 2 more up here. If you want to have him standing on the cab roof for some reason, that's all nice and good. But the I would say the main way that these guys can interact with this mode, other than the fact that the little Optimus Apex figure actually rides up in there, which is cool. We'll get more into that in a second when we transform him, is that these little side guns are similar to the ones that are coming with a couple of the Deluxes and I think a couple of the Voyagers, in that they can be used as little seat gun emplacement thingies that these little guys can ride in. And obviously they can also be taken off and put onto bases and stuff, which is something I showed off in the Blaster review. You can see these guns attached to Blaster's base mode, and later off in this review I might even include that same footage, but I will definitely be showing off Prime's base mode one way or the other. So you can have those guys kind of acting as little mini gunner guys. Obviously you only get up and down movement, so they can't like swivel around or anything, which is a little bit unfortunate. It'd be cool if they could do some swiveling action, but I mean, you get the idea. It's all, these are toys, so imagination has to play a little bit of a part. So to transform Prime, you just want to start by taking off these guns. These are going to fold backwards and they're going to end up sitting somewhere else, so pop off what other guns you might have attached to his body. Just kind of set everything off to the side. And then what I have found is the best thing to start with on this toy is just to come in here and pop these little side bits off, and then you can fold them straight out like that. So you just come in here, pop these side panels out, and they'll disconnect from tabs up there, but you don't really need to do anything if you pull them out straight from here at all. That'll all come undone without you having to worry about them specifically. And then once you are done with that stuff, you can just kind of put your fingers back in here and pull out on these 2 sides, like that, which will let you lift that up, and then you can just kind of flop those back. They're not going to peg in right yet, because you got to split the arms first. And then this stuff is very similar to Magnus, so I'm really only going to bother going through every step if it's different from what we did on the Magnus figure. Because basically all of this stuff is the exact same. The way that these close around this chest part is pretty much the same as Magnus, but it doesn't clip in the same way that his do. It just kind of rests there, so you don't have to worry about that, trying to sneak that part in there and all that stuff, which I actually appreciate. This part is actually my least favorite on the Magnus mold because of how, I don't know, it feels like I'm going to break it every time, so that's nice. This part's the same as Magnus. You just want to flip the legs around so you can peg them into the little slot thingies, like so. And then move the legs down so they're properly in position, and you can just pop these things into the side. And here's where it gets a little bit different, because you obviously want to start with getting the foot out of there, and then you're going to take the part that we took off of the side of the truck trailer, and you're going to wrap it around, and this little peg is going to match up with this, and these things are going to match up in these two little grooves. So, and then you'll end up with something like that. And then with these feet, a lot of people are putting them back like that, which is definitely something you can do. I've actually had a little bit more luck putting them forward like that. It might make his feet look a little bit bigger, but I found that he stands a lot more stably like that, and I'm pretty sure that's actually how it's meant to go, because it goes all the way forward for the other mode, so I'm pretty sure the reason that it's built to go forward and have this locking point is that you're actually meant to put his feet forward. It gives him a little bit better center of gravity, so he's not kind of leaning backwards. So that's up to you, obviously, but that between both of these molds, I have had a lot more luck getting him to stand properly and look decent with the feet forward and not swung back. And there you have his legs. And then, what do I usually want to do first? You can just split this whole arm thing. This is also pretty much the same as Magnus, except as you can see, you're not collapsing his arms or anything. They're just already pretty much how they're going to be. So you just flip them back, clip them in, and then you can kind of press. These things do have a little tab. Where does that go into? I guess it just goes into here, but they do sit securely once you have the arms split, like so. And then you just want to take this whole thing and spin it around, and then you can put that back, fold that in, and then fold that part up. And that's what you want to do for now. And we're pretty much going to call that the robot mode until we take a look at his little Titan Master guy inside. So to get at the Titan Master inside of this guy, you're going to want to pull this side out first, and it basically just clips on right here onto the Autobot badge. That's the main point at which it's holding onto there. And then you just want to open this up, and you might need to angle this up a little bit to make it pass over the guy's head. He sits in there on this little chair that's actually made out of the underside of the helmet. And it's got this little clip thing that matches up with the little groove in the back of all of their legs and allows him to sit in place, like so. So basically you just want to pull him out, and then you want to take this whole assembly, and that's going to flip up and fill in that spot, and then make sure this little tab is down. And then you're going to close this side up again, and then close this side up, and then make sure you get that little part to clip. And then you should be all good to close this whole chest piece up. And there's little grooves on the side here that kind of fit into the little grooves there and hold all of that stuff in place. And that is pretty much the way his robot or transductor or whatever you want to call it is going to be. You can take these and you can either peg them in up like this, or you can peg them in a little bit lower down like this, which is what I think looks better. Or I mean, you could plug them in sideways too, but that'd just be kind of weird. So do what you want. And that's pretty much his robot mode, minus his head, obviously. So the Titan Master figure on this guy is actually pretty cool looking. He's like a little... Sorry, they're so tiny. I've yet to find a good way to hold them so I'm not blocking them on camera. Whatever. He's like a little dude with a little visor. He's definitely pretty cool looking. I don't know exactly what he's supposed to look like, but, you know, he's neat. He's got all the same articulation as all the other ones. He's got the little ball joints and the double jointed stuff going on here. To turn him into a head, it's the same process as all the other ones. And this is very Orion Paxi, which is kind of strange, but kind of cool. And then we'll just pop this on top of here like we did for Leader Blaster. Although I do, for some reason, have a harder time getting this guy to go all the way in sometimes. And then, again, just like Leader Blaster, this back part's going to close onto the back part and hold that in place, and then this whole thing flips over and forms the Optimus Prime, like, head thing. So again, pardon my background being visible, my wallpaper, or a painted wall, I suppose, it's not wallpaper. So, unlike Magnus, this guy has these big things on the back of his arms, which some people are annoyed by, but it did give them the opportunity to mold these little slots in there, which actually allow the handles of the guns to go into there before you close the hands around them, which I will admit does make them a little bit more stable. He holds his guns a little bit better than Magnus, which is not difficult because Magnus refuses to hold his guns. But he still doesn't really hold them that well. They don't, like, clip into those holes. Those holes just kind of provide stability, I guess. I mean, it gives them, like, a base to sit in, but he's still definitely not excellent with holding his weapons, which is a little bit of a shame, but I don't really care all that much, to be honest. I don't always really have my Prime figures wielding guns. I usually kind of have them stowed on their body somewhere, so I'm not that upset about it. And yeah, this is a really well done, good looking figure that I am very, very happy with. I mean, he's just a solid effort. I really don't have anything to complain about, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, I really can't think of any valid complaints to make. For size comparison, here he is with his mold mate, Ultra Magnus. And as you can see, they really don't have much of anything in common. I mean, they use the same general mold skeleton, but the only real parts that are anything similar on these are the hip things and, like, a couple of the joint parts and, like, the feet. Every other part on here is at least remolded to look different, if not just a different part that works differently. So they did a very extensive amount of changing to this mold between the two, so I normally won't buy more than one version of the same mold, but I kind of had to break that rule for Combiner Wars anyway, or I wouldn't have been able to get anything, so yeah, I'm happy I did in this case, though. This guy looks really nice. Ultra Magnus still can't hold his weapons, though. Yeah, at least this guy kind of can. I mean, they'll still fall out if you hit them hard enough, but he's a little bit better, but they're all terrible at holding their weapons, both of them. It's too bad. And here he is with Leader Blaster, who is also wielding the two currently released Wave 1 Autobot weapon things as their gun modes, because I can't remember if I showed that off in his review. So they look good together. That works. And just for fun, here he is next to a very similarly colored little Diaclone Reboot bot. And these guys have some really fun interaction with the Titan Masters, because the little Diaclone drivers are just a little bit smaller than the Headmaster figures, which is technically correct scaling between Headmasters and humans, so super fun! The base modes and stuff look really fun with them. I did not expect that. As was the case in his vehicle mode, you can use these little weapons, like so, to give your Titan Masters some little places to sit and gun on his robot mode, which is cool. Unfortunately, though, the fact that his hands are terrible means that he really... Whoa. This little thing pop off in Blaster's hand, that's weird. He really cannot hold these weapons at all either. I mean, kind of. They're very, very precarious. Of course now it's gonna be a little better. They're pretty loose and they don't really sit straight. It's gonna be better. It's behaving because I'm videotaping it, as is the curse of reviewers. But his hands just kind of suck. I'm gonna be honest, I don't really care about articulating hands. I would much rather hands like this that actually hold the accessories and weapons properly. This does not bother me at all. This actually does. I would rather not have moving fingers if the moving fingers are going to make the hands not work. What's the point of having moving fingers if they can't hold anything? That's not a plus. Whatever. that's not that much of a distraction. I wish he could hold his guns better. I wish these hands didn't suck, but this figure is so great that I kind of like, well, whatever. I was already over it on the like the Ultra Magnus mold, so kind of already mourned the loss of that. Getting this guy into his base mode is pretty easy and fan mode-y, kinda, so, I mean, it's... half of this is like, do what you want with it, so... First thing you're gonna want to do is take that stuff off, obviously. We're gonna, for the most part, kind of bring the cab back to its vehicle mode type of configuration. Just gonna spin that around, plug it back in. You can leave that there for now. I'm gonna go with the stock instructions version of this first, and then I'm going to show it off attached to Blaster, where I've done a little bit of tweaking with the way it looks just to make it fit in better as a kind of co-city mode. So what the instructions have you doing, first off you want to spread that out, is folding these things up and then bending them at the knee and kind of angling these things down like this, so you can kind of fold them up and around like this. Like so, and you're putting the feet back into their other configuration, I think. Yeah. And then there's a little thing on the bottom of this that you can flip out that helps it stand steady. And it does say to have this open, although it doesn't really say why, but it just kind of says to leave that open. And that's pretty much yeah, and this is really fiddly. I mean, this is pretty much what they have you doing, but it's kind of half-assed. Gonna be honest. This definitely seems like they saw the photos of the fan mode that someone had made with the Magnus mold, and they were like, "Oh, that works. Let's make that." And it doesn't totally work for me. I mean, first off, it doesn't really sit straight. So even with this little thing out, nothing I do really makes it seem like it's like flat. And I have trouble getting these legs in any way that they both kind of look like they're at the same level. So, I mean, it's not terrible. It's definitely, it could kind of work. As a standalone thing, I'm not sure how good this is, but I've gotten it into some decent configurations when I've hooked it up to Blaster and stuff, and I'm gonna guess it'll probably look a little bit more passable once it's hooked up to like Fort Max and Blaster's hooked up to Fort Max, and there's a little bit more of an ecosystem going, because just this thing alone kind of is like, what is this? I mean, I don't even know, what is this thing supposed to be? If you try to fold it down, it's just a lot of gray space. I mean, I guess like this could be like some kind of little landing platform or something. I'm not entirely sure what they're going for with this, what this is supposed to be. I'm also a little bit confused because of the way that these bases attach to Blaster is actually, or not Blaster, the way that the base is attached to Fort Max is actually using these two little flaps on the side that connect to this stuff. And Blaster has some little ramps in his legs that also connect to these things. Again, I'll show that off in a second. But there's not really any way to make it so the ramp connection is facing the way that you would need it to. So like if you sit this where Blaster is, there's not going to be any way to connect that ramp there. You need to kind of like straighten this leg out and then connect it like that, and then there's not going to be enough room for that to sit where it needs to sit to not smash into the rest of the body of Fort Max. So I don't really know how this... I understand how Blaster is going to connect to Fort Max, but I'm not understanding how this city mode thing from Prime is supposed to... Uh-oh. Pop the leg joint out of there. Yeah, so this thing is kind of a fiddly mess. I'm not super hot on it in terms of the base mode. Like I said, I do like it a lot more when it's connected up to Blaster and not just kind of its own thing, so I will show that off right now. You can also use this little ramp bit right here to connect him up to some other leader class figures to make kind of an expanded base mode. It doesn't really look too great in this particular situation just because Powermaster Prime's base mode is kind of hideous. Just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's supposed to even have this like thing sticking up over here like that, so that's great, but I just kind of held that down. You know, that can be like a warehouse area or something, so I think this will probably work out much better when you can connect both of them to Fortress Max versus trying to connect them to each other, because there's not really any good angle or way to do that, and his base mode kind of... Could probably make this look much better by rotating that tower around, but... You know, the base mode idea is probably going to be like a like it or leave it kind of situation. I really enjoy it. I enjoy the microplay kind of situation going on, so it definitely works for me, and I look forward to adding more to it, but I could see if people are like, this is silly and dumb and I'm not going to use that at all, then power to you. I could totally see why you would feel that way, but I do not. I love this. I think it's pretty cool. So, final thoughts on this figure are quite good. He's a really good remold. He's a good, just standalone figure. He's a good type of introduction to the line. He has good interaction with the Titan Masters. Really, the only thing I think I would complain about is that his base mode just... It does not... If they had added a couple more pegs to actually, like, peg some things in securely and straighten some things out, I think it could have been a lot more solid. They already did a whole lot of remolding on here, so they probably just couldn't fit that much more stuff into the budget, but I would have preferred the base mode be a little bit more well put together versus just kind of seeming like spreading out the figure. But, you know, what can you do? I still think this is a really, really solid figure, and I still think I probably like it more than the original Ultra Magnus version of this mold, so take that for what you will. I will be continuing my reviews with at least the Legends and the Wave 2 Titan Masters and Fort Max. For whatever reason, Big Bad Toy Store still has not gotten the Deluxes in, so I also have the Voyagers on the way, but I'm not going to be able to review the Deluxes until they actually get them in stock or I find them at a store, so... first world problems. So yeah, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more reviews. Like and subscribe if you like and want to subscribe, and I will see you next time.